Welcome to Talk Around Riyadh, the Wheel of Time showcast. I am your host, Joe Perry, here with my co-host, Jen Isgro and Tom Kokoza. How you doing tonight, Jen?
I'm doing great. It's Thursday. It's December. It's really cold outside, starting to feel like Christmas, and we're still talking Origins. I'm excited about tonight.
Yes. We are deep into Origins and still have not got to the end. I still haven't finished the actual book because, again, I keep going back to reread the stuff that we're covering. Tom, how you doing tonight?
Doing all right, Joe. Yeah, it should be a very fun night. Yeah, it's Thursday at 10 o'clock, which is not when we normally record our show. So
No.
I have to admit, I did take a nap before we
Ooh,
recorded because I was worried that I would fall asleep halfway through the show
sure.
because I am an old man.
You are an old man, Tom.
But I like Jen, I'm excited tonight because it's not just you and Jen and I. We have some special guests.
Yeah,
with
we
us tonight,
promised
Joe.
everybody guests, and I forgot on the last episode to announce who the guests were going to be this week. So for most of you, it's a surprise, but we are joined by Seth and Aradia from the WoT Spoilers podcast. Welcome, Seth and Aradia. How you both doing?
Hey,
We're
excellent.
doing good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you on the show, and I think I told you this maybe when I was on your show, but like yours was the first Wheel of Time podcast that I listened to way back when I think it was when the show was announced to be coming out, and I was like looking for a new podcast to listen to, and I was like, wait, let me try a Wheel of Time podcast. Let me see if there are any out there. And I searched in Spotify, and yours was the first one that came up. So I said, okay, let me try the first one that came up. And then I binged it all the way up for like the first 4 books or so. It's a lot of time spent listening to listening to you guys.
There's something about hitting the right timing, and I think we did that. We got in just before everybody else, and I think that gave us puts us at the top of a lot of lists.
Yeah.
But that's a lot about timing. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was really cool to listen to the podcast and then to be a guest on your podcast and then to have you guys on our podcast. So the circle
Wow.
is complete.
Yeah, you guys are
like a
amazing.
wheel.
Yeah.
Yes,
wheel.
the wheel of content
Wheel of
creators.
content is complete. Yes.
The podcast on our island, the tapestry of podcasts being woven through the interwebs.
I would actually love to see that, all the content creators and then a web of connections when they've been on each other's content.
Oh my
And
God.
like put that out as some sort of
Amazing.
weave.
Ooh, that would be a good project to get, like, have each content creator listed and then every other podcast that they were on and episodes
The
that were on.
crossovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The center
This
spine is a
giant
dusty
family
wheel.
tree.
Wow.
That'd be-
Somebody get on that. That sounds amazing, but I don't want to do it.
No, that sounds like a lot of work. But that'd be really cool to have something somewhere where you can access that. So maybe someone
Like
will
a
listen to this
database.
and get on that. That's I'm just thinking of like some of the podcasts that like have guests
is a
on
great
all the
idea.
time.
It's
Yeah.
a great idea.
It is a great idea, but nothing will execute ever.
It's like an IMDb of Wheel of Time content creators.
It's getting big enough. We need that now.
A WoT DB.
What? WOTDB.
WOTDB. There you go. Maybe we could talk to we'll talk to Chris who does the wiki and see if he has an interest in doing something like that. All right, so we're going to be exploring some more of the glossary of Origins of the Wheel of Time, but before we get into that, Jen, what's happening?
Only 24 shopping days till Christmas, and this is what's happening. Let's start things off with our favorite stone-faced swordsman, Daniel Henney. Daniel posts on Instagram, "Thank you so much," and I don't have my translate button for some reason. It says, "Thank you so much for the award," something like that. The photos are of Daniel looking dapper in a tux and then holding an award that looks slightly like an American Emmy. Daniel has won a Blue Dragon Film Award, a South Korean award for excellence in film. Daniel was one of 4 winners of the Chung Jung-won Popular Star Award for his work in Confidential Assignment 2 International. So
Impressive.
congratulations to Daniel for your continued popularity.
That is the Blue Dragon Awards is so much cooler than, the Emmys.
The Oscars, yeah.
Or the
Oscar.
The
Oscars.
Academy Awards, yeah.
Give me a blue dragon. That sounds cool.
It
Yeah.
does. That sounds so much cooler. And you're right, it does kind of look like an Emmy Award.
Yeah.
Why isn't it a dragon, though? Like, that's my question. It just looks like a woman holding up something. I can't tell. That picture's blurry, but and then the other one is cut off.
Well, he looks like he has the award on like a different. He's wearing like a different outfit when he has the award in his hand, unless that's like afterwards.
But it's not dragon. It's not a dragon, Jen.
No, the award's not a dragon.
It's called the Blue Dragon Awards, and the statue is not a blue dragon.
Somebody dropped the ball. You're right.
Yeah, somebody dropped the ball, Jen.
Okay. Well, we'll reach out to them and we'll update you next week.
Oh, and there goes Tom.
That didn't take long. Okay. Also, happy belated birthday to Daniel. He turned 43 years young on November 28th, and of course, his parents, Phil and Chris Henney, left him a very sweet birthday wish on Twitter. Happy birthday, son. We love you so much. We are so proud of you and can't wait to see what your next adventure is. Happy 43rd, son. And there's a photo compilation of Daniel on the Wheel of Time blue carpet. And then 3 very adorable toddler pictures of him. And I think
That's him
the
holding his
4th
blue
picture is
dragon.
him winning the award.
That's
Yeah, well,
him
look at
holding his
that.
Blue
I
Dragon
didn't even
award,
notice
too.
that. So Phil and Chris still holding strong as best parents in the world.
Happy birthday, Daniel Henney.
Yes.
You lucky.
That's
son.
probably my favorite story to come out from the Wheel of Time people is just how awesome Daniel Henney's parents are.
Oh my
Yes.
God. It's
They're-
like the only thing better than that is Daniel Henney's relationship with his dogs.
Yes.
Like it's just everything pure and good is emanating from that
Yes.
point.
Yeah, right. Saving dogs from being eaten and whatnot. So that's pretty good too.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
we got a-
name day to our favorite Laniel. Laniel. That's the name,
Laniel,
right?
yeah. Okay, so also the trailer for Cocaine Bear has dropped. You can
I thought this was a joke for so long.
No, it's real. You can find the poster on Ayula Smart's Instagram. Our Avienda is playing Officer Reba, and I think I can spot the back of her head in the trailer.
I didn't know why you had flagged this, Jen. I was looking through it and I'm like, I don't see any. What is this? First of all, I was like, what's going on? And then I was like, I don't see anybody from the Wheel of Time in this. Why is Jen posting this?
She posted it, so I knew she was in it. There was one shot of like
Okay.
cops outside, and you see the back of a head that looks similar to her hair. So I think it's her. So she's playing. Oh, I said this already. The movie's directed by Elizabeth Banks, and it's pretty self-explanatory. A bear gets into some cocaine. Horrible hijinks ensue.
that
This
Ray
looks like
Liotta?
it could. What?
Was that
Yes,
Ray-
Ray
Yes.
Liotta. It might be Ray Liotta's last
It's
film appearance.
last role.
There's a lot of good people in it.
Oh, it's got
Carrie
the guy
Russell
from The
looks like-
Wire.
One of the leads. That guy from wait.
Shit.
So the guy from like the IKEA TikToks
I don't
is
wa-
in it.
I don't
No,
know.
he's like
Oh,
he's a
that guy.
comedian. No, he says like people say stupid things to him at IKEA, and then he like is sarcastic back to them. But there's like a song playing. No, nobody knows what this is.
No.
I'll find it
I haven't been on that part of
later.
TikTok.
I don't go. I go on Instagram. TikTok. I'm not really on TikTok, but I've seen the videos. But yeah. Anyway, he's in it. He's the guy in the beginning of the trailer with the mustache.
He's okay. He's the medic.
Yeah, the
Right.
first guy you see. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
okay.
think he live. I'm assuming he does not live.
Well,
I don't think
he's
most
getting
people
chased
live.
by a bear later on,
I
asking his medic.
He's
But
the,
it
part of
jumps
the
into the
drive
back of the. It looks like it's gonna jump into the
Looks
back
like
of
the
the
bear jumps
ambulance.
into
he's
the
the
back
guy
of
with
the
the
van.
hat on and the mustache.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they go to the house right in the beginning. Yeah.
He was in the tree and the bear climbed up in the tree. And oh no, now they're eating his
No,
leg.
he's in the
bear's-
ambulance.
No, not that guy.
Oh, it's a different guy.
That guy.
Okay.
That guy gets eaten.
Welcome to our Cocaine Bear podcast.
There's going to be a lot of hilarious deaths in this cocaine
Yeah,
bear.
I kind of.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like a horror movie, but not really. I kind of want to watch it.
But it's clearly for laughs, right?
Yeah,
Like,
well, it's gonna
Sounds
be. It has to be
amazing.
gory too, otherwise, like,
Yeah.
and they're not showing it in the trailer. But I'm
It's-
imagining the bear just rips people to shreds.
It said
Totally.
it's inspired by true events.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
I'm
so-
sure that the bear eating the cocaine probably is a true event. I don't know if
Yes.
anything past that actually.
Well, bear attacks are true events.
Right. So
Right.
like,
Yeah, I looked it up, and in the I think in the late '80s or the mid '80s or something, like a drug smuggling operation accidentally dropped cocaine over a forest. That part is real. Like that's the setup for this
Right.
movie too. And a bear got into a ton of cocaine and eventually OD'd. Right, but all the real thing is just they've eventually found the cocaine and a dead bear. Like they're like, and this is like, what happened.
What happened in
That's
between those two
right.
things?
the 2 weeks between when the cocaine fell and when they found the bear. So
Okay.
it's a great premise.
I mean, it is.
It's the best movie premise since Snakes on a Plane, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it probably will end up being that popular. So
Uh,
congratulations to Ayula, and we hope you survive
Indeed.
for Cocaine Bear too. I need a good name for that, but I couldn't think of it on the spot. Okay, so last but not least, we have ourselves some hashtag hen news.
Oh, head news.
Julia there you go. Okay, that's it. I thought it was
I
longer.
almost didn't have it ready.
I know, I forgot to tell you. Juliet Howland writes on Instagram. Avi Hen checks her. This is probably a typo. It's probably supposed to say Avi Henda checks herself out in the mirror, as does Pollyanna. Still no proper head feathers. Then Avi and Nevi play swinging lettuce until bossy Miss Minnie Maple arrives and they scamper. Maple's never been truly settled since Egwene and Willow went to the field in the sky. They were her buddies, particularly Egwene, trying to keep them entertained through bird flu lockdown, or flockdown as it's known. So she posted some photos in the video she described. It's good to see Avihenda and Nynaeve playing nicely, and we hope they all stay healthy through flockdown.
Aw. These hens are awesome.
My phone is really angry with me for typing Avihenda. It's gonna screw up. It's already auto filling in Avienda now. And I'm like, no, you're spelling Avienda wrong.
Mhm.
It's okay, there's two different people here.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm done. Back to you, Joe.
All right, Jen. You know what time it is. It's time for another edition of Where's WoT Origins. Aradia's trying to hold in her. She likes her theme music. All right, welcome back to another edition of Where's WoT Origins. Tom, is there any news? Is WoT Origins out? Do we know when it's coming out?
Joe, there's a big breakthrough in this case, and I'm very excited to say that the answer is no to all of your questions. I don't know where it is. It's not out, and I don't know when it's coming out. I'm sorry.
Jen, anything?
Just checking my completely blank phone. Oh, it was blank. There you go. Nothing. No, absolutely no news. No updates. Nothing at all.
All right, since we have some guests on the show, I'd like to get your thoughts on when do you think they're actually going to release those couple of episodes of the animated WoT Origins? They said August. That was in July, I think, right?
Are you suggesting somebody lied on social media?
Well, no, he didn't say. Rafe never said what year, I don't think.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair. That's my prediction. That month, a year later.
I mean, I time is a puddle. They will come when they come, and the wheel will weave as it wills.
I'll accept that answer. That concludes our edition of Where's WoT Origins. All right, we've got one piece of news to talk about before we get into the glossary, and I know everyone's really waiting for the glossary, but we cannot go without talking about that WoT series released an article this week, just basically summarizing what we know about Season 3, hence the title, The Wheel of Time, What We Know About Season 3. There are two things that I wanted to point out in this. One of them, they talked a little bit about the Czech Republic Film Commission has reduced their incentive rebate. So it's possible, or is there a possibility that they don't film in the Czech Republic anymore, or maybe not as much there because of that? And Eri, who had written, I think it was Eri wrote the article, and she noted that there was a multi-million-pound deal struck by Amazon Studios to utilize Shepperton Studios as a filming hub in the United Kingdom. I don't know if that was specifically for the Wheel of Time. I think just in general, Amazon struck a deal with them. And then we know that Rafe and the writer's room was in London as opposed to the Czech Republic. But then she did note that Rafe had pointed out at one point that he was in Prague for start of prep on season 3, according to the tweet that Rafe had put out. Just, I guess, quick thoughts on this. Do you think they're going to be filming as much in the Czech Republic anymore? You think they're going to be straying from there? I know the story obviously is going to be spreading all over the place. But anyone have any thoughts on that?
I mean, they built the whole studio there, and it's called Jordan Studios.
Well, they
So
didn't
would
build
it
the
be
studio.
weird?
It's an old truck factory that they were
Okay, I
using
mean,
as
well, they didn't
studio.
build it from scratch, but I mean,
Yeah.
is that something you do and then just like decide not to use it anymore?
I imagine there's sets on the sound stages, right, that they built there?
Yeah, right. So at least they're gonna at least do that, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that you've got season 3 is looking like it's going to be Shadow Rising for the most part, so there's
Mhm.
not going to be as much. You're gonna have to find some place to film the Two Rivers, right? Wherever that is, right?
I would assume
But
they
like a
go
lot
back
of
to the
the
Czech Republic for. Well, it was Slovenia, right, where they filmed a lot of that. Was it? I can't remember.
yeah, so but I guess like yeah, their location filming doesn't really have to be that much in the Czech Republic because most like the Iowa Waste we think is going to be Morocco anyway.
Yeah, so
Right.
they did note that the Moroccan film rebate has increased from 20% to 30% in 2023. So it's probably very likely that they're going to go back to Morocco, and that would make a perfect, landscape for the waste.
Yeah, from what we've seen. So yeah, I think they'll be there, but probably not as much. And it will probably just be for the soundstage stuff.
Mm-hmm. You think they're going to go back to the same site for the Two Rivers as they used? They destroyed that
I
set,
sure
right?
hope so.
They're gonna have to rebuild that set. It'd look different though, right? Because when they rebuild the Two Rivers, it kind of looks a little bit different, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I bet
they
they
have to rebuild it. That's canonically appropriate.
Yeah,
then rebuild it somewhere else is very easy to do.
that's
No,
true.
I will be angry if the mountain peaks in the background are not the same. I will be angry.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
Good call.
The rocks are very important. The misty mountains and all of that. Like you've cited it. You built the thing. Just go back and rebuild it like a real Two Rivers person.
Yeah, I wonder if when they do rebuild it, if the crew members feel like they're Two Rivers folk rebuilding their village
I
after the
hope
Trolloc
so.
attack.
I have to wonder, are we going to spend any time in Camelin? Because that could be, UK could be a good place to film
Very true.
those scenes.
Lots of castles and things like that there.
Right.
They can do a lot over there.
And I mean, just the parallels between London and Camelin.
Yeah. There's also something else that I think was a little bit more eye-catching for me is that something they had caught, or a few pieces of information they caught about the start of season 3 production. So, per a cast biography for Ayula Smart, who's playing Avienda, it revealed that filming for series 3, The Wheel of Time, will begin in early 2023. And then also, back in September, Davina Lamont, who's the lead makeup and hair designer for season 2, put out a call for experienced hair and makeup crew to work on a large television series starting in March 2023.
Well, that's nice to hear. It's promising.
I think there's one other thing, too, about the costume crew from season 2 have been spotted returning to Prague as well. But there's no confirmation again that the hair and makeup and the costume people are going to be the same people for season 3. But I mean, this kind of ties into the piece in Ayula Smart's biography. For her, she's in a production of Paradise Now at the Bush Theater. So if you're in the area,
Yeah, I think it's
check it
basically
out.
saying like she'll only be on that through the beginning of
It's
2023 because she has to go back to film her show.
Yeah, it
Right.
starts tomorrow, the run. So if anyone's in the area, in the Bush
Where is
Theater,
that?
Bush Theater, I don't no idea. I'm gonna assume it's in London, maybe.
I have no idea.
I thought it was
either.
like Bush beer. It was like in Colorado.
No, it's not spelled that way. It's spelled Bush like George Bush.
So it's in Texas.
Oh, actually, oh no, wait a second. Is this correct? I mean, there's got to be more than one Bush. Oh, okay, here's a UK one. because there was one that said Bush Theater at Central Michigan University. Uh, but there's
Probably
another
not
Bush Theater.
that.
It's located in Passmore Edwards Public Library, London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. So yeah, London.
Okay. I'm not in the area.
No, we're not in the area. So do you feel confident that season 3 production is going to start in March? Do you think this is good information?
I'll
Yeah, I
take
think
it.
so. They're back in the writer's room right now. They've been there for, a couple weeks working on stuff, so makes sense. They could start filming in March.
I like it. I like it. This is good. This is new information. We haven't had any kind of information like this in a while. So, maybe production will start right around the time season 2 is released. Maybe.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably going to start before season 2 is released, but around that time.
Depends on when in
Right.
March they go.
There's some indications like with right, they announced like when Good Omens season 2 is coming out, and it's like the summer of next year. So there's some expectation that season 2 of Wheel of Time will come out before then, because it's not going to wait until the fall and be like a
Yes.
2-year gap.
Thank you, Tom. That was the last piece of information in here about Good Omens, right? So we know Carnival Row is returning in February and will end in March, and then Good Omens is supposed to start up sometime in the summer. So it seems like that spot right in between would be a great spot to put the Wheel of Time.
Your
So-
birthday, Joe.
Yeah, happy birthday to me, hopefully. Hopefully we get it in April. I still think it'll be very interesting if the show's released and Jordan Con's not at the same time Jordan's Con's happening, but like they're in the middle of the release of the show and Jordan Con's going on, where I don't know. That's going to be interesting.
That'd be bananas, I think, for the people there to like try and wrangle that. But
I
yeah.
imagine they would set up viewings for it at the con.
Yeah.
Viewings would
probably.
set themselves up spontaneously if someone didn't do it.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah. It makes sense.
but that would be
Right.
just cruel to do that during then. That's just rude. It's
It is rude.
insensitive.
I don't think Prime Video
But-
cares though.
Yeah. Sure.
True. I will say this. I mean, so at last year's Jordan Con, right, where they released the clip, like they released I think Q&A bit, and they revealed that Fawn would be in the season, and
Ayula, that was
and
Ayula's release.
Yeah.
Watching that with like everyone else who's like a super fan of the books, that was a really cool experience, and that was, I don't know, whatever it was, like 5 minutes long. So if there was an opportunity to watch the show with everybody, I think that would be a cool experience, even if, you know, it would be logistically upsetting for the Jordan Con folks, I imagine. We had an event in this room. Well, you don't anymore.
Cancel the event. Well, I assume
TV.
they'll announce the release date sometime before that, so it won't be like,
Yeah, I know. I'm
all of a
just,
sudden we're releasing the show a week before the con. Deal with it.
I think the release date's going to be much further out.
You think? When do you think, Seth?
I mean, I think they looked at what Rings of Power was doing and said we need to go back and redo some of the CGI, and so they pulled the Origins and said, okay, well, we don't want to release those too far out, so we'll wait and release those later. And then those will come out in April, and then the show's not coming out till the fall.
Oh,
Fall.
Seth.
Oh my God, Seth! Come on.
It's
like-
disgusting.
This is from a completely uninformed perspective. I haven't followed any of the news. I'm just sort of putting that together based on
It's just sad. So
and
2 years
the fact
then.
that they've announced shows that are coming out in the summer, right? Well, if it's coming out before then, they would have announced, they don't vary that lead time that much, right? So it feels like it's going to come out later than the summer because we haven't heard a release date yet. That's what that tells me from that piece of news.
Good Omens, the first season of Good Omens came out I feel like it came out like almost 3 years ago. When did that come out?
I know. It was a long time
wow.
Did
ago.
it come out before COVID?
I thought it was
when it
real.
came out.
2020
It was
maybe, or maybe it was 2020.
I think it finished filming before COVID, but came out during COVID type situation.
Because it's
Yeah,
been a
I feel
while
like I
since that
associate
show.
hearing about it coming out with the beginning of the pandemic.
2019.
Yeah.
It came out in 2019.
Oh wow, it did.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, right before the pandemic.
So I hope
So
they
if
would give you some lead time because it's going to be out 4 years after the first season. But this is another sad thing too. Like I
4 years, oh my God,
that's
that's
another
crazy.
sad piece of information though too. Like they've gone that long between seasons of Good Omens. I mean,
Mm.
obviously
Right.
COVID
So
was right there, but
if it comes out in the fall, then they'll be done, presumably filming season 3 in time to do
Mm.
press for season 2.
Mhm.
Possible
Well,
too.
At the-
It's possible too. The
That's
I did not watch Good
awful.
Omens. I've read the book, and I thought that my understanding was that the first season adapted the book. So I don't know what the second
Yeah,
season of that show
yeah.
is.
oh, so maybe you think they were like it was only planned to be one season, and then they were
Yeah, I
like,
don't think
"Oh,
like they
let's do
were.
more."
I don't think it was like a cliffhanger ending, or like I think they adapted the material, and then this is just like, hey, that was really successful, and like the two leads are good friends. Let's just make another season of that show.
That could be it. I don't know. I don't know the details behind that too. So
So I was something it's not news, but it's news adjacent, right? That dropped recently, like a couple of hours ago, right? There's a convention going on in Brazil right now, right? The
oh yeah,
CCXP.
CCXX something.
CCXP is what I
CCXP,
have
thank you.
here at
Yeah,
least.
we talked about it
And so
last week.
they're there. Amazon Prime's there, and they did like a very cool setup for the show where they had a mock-up hall of the tower, and like you got to pick your Aja, and like people sit in the like all cool stuff that we didn't get at New York Comic Con when we went, whatever. But
No.
apparently people who were there, even though they're not revealing what was seen, got to see something that made them very, very excited about where season 2 is or
And the
is
Prime
coming, or like
Video
what's in it or
panel is
whatever.
on Saturday.
Yeah, but apparently people saw stuff today, is what I'm saying.
You think they saw clips, or they were just bragging about, like you said, they had the set of like the hall, the tower, and there was pictures
No.
of stuff.
From what I'm seeing, like people saw stuff, like maybe it's a sizzle reel. I don't know, a different sizzle reel than was released. But I was saying there's stuff in the air. Hopefully, we'll find more out over the weekend.
All right, we'll find out Saturday. Hopefully, I'm sure that will be leaking out somewhere. I know Matt from the Dusty Wheel has somebody who's going to be at the convention, and maybe we'll be doing a live stream. So maybe we'll get some information. And I think it's 8 o'clock Eastern time that panel starts, and it's 2 hours, but it's like all Prime. There's like 4 Prime Video shows there, all in one panel, sharing a panel. So I don't know, maybe they do a half hour of each show or something like that. So it'll be interesting to find out what we get from that. Hopefully we get something. But Jen, you had a theory that they're just going to play the Elaine and Matt clips that we saw at New York Comic Con because they haven't
because
released
that's the
them to the
people who are
public.
there. Elaine and Matt and Leandrin.
Yeah, I think that
Not
totally
Egwene,
makes,
but
yeah,
yeah.
that totally makes sense. All right, let's get into the glossary. We've got a lot of things to talk about. We're doing letters F through M, and as we were talking before we actually started recording, we all had lots of notes because there were a lot of things in here we wanted to talk about. So I guess I'll get it started off. Let me go to one that I thought was kind of interesting. I'm going to jump to the letter G and talk a little bit about Guitarra Moroso.
Good one.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. There are a lot of things in here that were like, oh, that's kind of cool. And this was one of those ones that kind of struck me where I didn't, there's ones in here that are obvious, like we kind of already knew about. And there's ones where they're just talking about characters and myth, like Celtic mythology, that we have no idea who they are. This one was interesting because they talk about the Romani, often called gypsies, but in Spanish, they're called gitanos, right? So gypsies are, and obviously, associated with fortune telling and telling the future. So in Spanish, they're called gitanos. So Guitarra Gitanos. And then the surname, I'll read right from here. Surname likewise refers to a talent for foretelling. In Greek mythology, Moros is the son of Nyx, the goddess of night, a brother of the Morai, which shows up multiple times, also referring to Moraine Damodred. It is Moros who drives a person to their fated end. In some stories, Moros is also said to give some people glimpses of their coming death. A more fitting match for Guitarra's role in the Wheel of Time could hardly be found. That is super cool. I really like this one. I had no idea Gitanos. I knew about the Morai. They talked about that a bit in here, or Moray. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It would fit with Moraine if it was Moray, but something that I thought was pretty interesting, combining those two words together and then getting this one character, Guitar Moroso, who plays a tiny but very pivotal role in the story. Yeah, cool. I liked it.
Super cool.
And I like that she not only sends off like Rand, but she sends off all sorts of Rand's mother, but also Luke off to the waste and just breaks that whole
Also,
family up.
Swan and Moraine.
And also Swan and Moraine,
Yes.
And
Who knows how many other people,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, and they all want, well, they don't all die, but they almost all die. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, Luke in the Waste, and then also thinking too, right? She was the keeper for Tamra, who also died as well. So it seems like she had a lot of one of those people who you hang around with long enough, you're going to wind up dead. So Moraine's the only one who seemed to have beat that. Spoiler alert. But we thought she was dead, so
she died a little bit.
she kind of died.
Yeah, it's a cat-like, mat-like sort of death.
She died inside.
Several times.
Jen, you have one that you want to talk about?
Sure. This one just made me laugh. Florin Gelb.
Mm.
I just love all the inspirations for his name. So he's a duplicitous and generally cowardly sailor. His name derives from Florianus, who was proclaimed Roman emperor in July 276. His own army, dissatisfied with his ineffective leadership, killed him that September, and his surname means yellow in German, a subtle comment on his personality.
Now, this one, yeah, this one was cool too. How bad of an emperor that literally like 2 months after you become emperor, your own army kills you?
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, the Praetorian Guard does that a lot, but still, yeah, it's a pretty quick turnaround on that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. Well, he doesn't get killed by his own men in the book, right? But he's right. The crew, right, of the Spray. Am I saying that? Is it the right? Am I talking about the right ship?
Yes,
It
yeah.
is the Spray, right? It's the crew of the Spray hates him, right? And despises
They
him.
all hate him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't like him, and then he almost gets them killed, and they're all like shunning him, but they're on a boat. And then, yeah, I mean, like, remember how Domon literally screams in the face of all the traitors because he's so invested in getting this guy off his ship, like literally the first moment that it's possible. Yeah, nobody likes this guy.
No.
And then, yeah, his surname means yellow in German.
Hello.
A subtle comment on his personality. He was a coward, right?
funny.
He kept blaming like Rand and Matt for everything, right? That was happening.
Yeah, it was take the ship, take anything, spare me. That was his first reaction to being attacked by
that's
Rand.
right. Yeah, he wasn't even being attacked. They were just trying to
Yeah,
get on the
Rand
ship.
kicks him in the head while escaping from a Trolloc, and Floringelb's first response is take the boat. I don't care. And then Domon comes up and is like, are you the captain? Because that's my boat.
Awesome. Aradia, you have anyone that you wanted to bring up?
Yes, I will go full geology nerd on this one. For Galena Casvan.
Okay.
Because Galena is a mineral. Galena just is a mineral. It was one of the weirdest things when I was in my geology courses and I was learning about Galena, because I'm like, ooh, Black Aja in the mineral drawers. But Galena Casban, her name reflects the secret danger she holds, because since ancient times, Galena has been mined for its lead content.
I did not know that.
It's a lead-bearing ore, so very
She's
poisonous.
Yeah.
Very, very poisonous and toxic to handle and hold and be around. So as a geology nerd, I always was like, Jordan was naming her for the toxic mineral, right? And now I get proof that yes, he was. And then Casban also is just for Caliban, like from The Tempest in Shakespeare.
I
Just
do remember that.
for fun. But yeah, Galena, that's my first one.
I always thought her last name was reminiscent of the Casbah and I was trying to make that connection.
Rocking the Casbah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Casbah. Galena.
Don't
Like
lie.
that, right?
Jen's got a parody coming.
So many up here.
I know, right?
I also
it's like
didn't
every
know-
song you hear now, you're like, I can make that into a parody.
I also didn't know that you extract lead from other minerals.
Yeah, most ores come in association with a bunch of stuff. It's very rare that you get just like the chunk of gold style pure mineral. Usually is all wound up in some mineral structure that you have to hit with caustic chemicals and pressure, and it's a whole industrial mining is cool and terrible.
And interesting and kind of fascinating too.
We've learned so much because of geology, like so much of my coursework, the fundamental research was paid for by the oil and gas industry.
Oh, wow.
Like they're the ones that funded a lot of the research into sedimentology and stratigraphy for obvious reasons, but like it's all good research and development just for undergraduates too.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I did not know that. Seth, you got one for us?
Sure. I love puns, so I got to do a two-parter. Mashing Shin and Mashing.
Yes, these are great.
Yes.
Right? Because one thing I really found reading this glossary is that Jordan loved puns, and almost half his name are just puns on English words or other words. Yeah. So the fact that Mashing Shin is a machine of sin, which... because we never really get much about its origins or what it is. It's just like, well, it happened, right? And we don't really know why it happened. And so just to be like, oh, it's a machine of sin, that tells me a lot more about what I think its origins are, and what he was thinking about. But also, like, what a terrible pun, right?
It's kind of badass though. Like a machine of sin sounds like something really. It sounds like a Nine Inch Nails song or something like that.
AI gone rogue.
But that's so cool. A machine of sin, which actually kind of connects the TV show a little bit better to Mashing Shin, right? Because it's kind of playing up their sins, so to speak, that they have that they're hiding. But yeah, that's
also
so
looks
weird.
like Danobots on the show.
Yeah, the little nanobots on the show.
Yeah, but it makes them scared of their sins. That's what really.
Or it's just the sin of doubt.
Right.
Yeah, machine of sin. And then you said Mashadar, right?
And then Mashadar, Ash, and Shadow, which I think sort of represents what it looks like is this just floating ash in shadow, right? Like Mash, Shadow, Mashadar, Mash, and Ash and Shadow. And I just, it's a little less punny and more just like this cool, like I took these two words and smashed them together and added an M on the front of it.
So I'm
that's a really mashed up word.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't throw a third one in here. There's a third pun in here, Seth.
I know it.
Oh, there's so many more
I
puns.
think I have it on my list.
Just those two were combined as the things in the air, but yeah.
the Murdral one.
Yes. Oh my God.
I was thinking that one. I feel like you just said like murder all.
Really fast.
Murder all, but it just like comes out like, oh, okay.
Murder all. They like to murder all.
I feel like when I was first reading the books, I feel like I had that thought at one point of like, is it just the murder all people? Is that just the murder alls? Is that like, I'm sure, I feel like I had that thought on my first read when I was in middle school. And then I was just like, nah, he's doing something more clever than that. Now here I am like, nope, that's exactly what he was.
I feel like.
And then there's Matt. Sorry, there's Matt who's got the nickname No Tie because he has no ties.
Oh my God. I about ready to throw the book when I read that.
That one I wasn't too keen on, but I'm like picturing now like Robert Jordan in the car, like in, what was it? Was it Tommy Boy with the roads, and he's stoned in the car with his friend just saying the words, and then like, ooh, this writing them down. Write that down. Murder all.
You telling me he wasn't smoking that Two Rivers tobacco? Really?
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
he did like his pipes.
I didn't get up to tea yet, so I don't know if there's anything secrets. Tom, you got something?
Yeah, so I guess it's a long entry. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna go to Galad Damodred.
Yeah.
yeah.
We talked about this, I think, a little bit in one of the other ones about how um originally the Arthurian myths were much more prominent in the story, and some of them got jettisoned, especially a lot of stuff with Mordred, and that Galad was originally supposed to be a combination of Galahad and Mordred, which that's a really weird combination, but whatever. And a lot of that kind of dropped away. So that's all really interesting, and it's long. This is one of the longer entries in this in the book, so read it. But one part that I think is very interesting, because I don't know, I think this is kind of cool, and I feel like this is kind of a reveal in the book, which is a lot of these aren't. Elsewhere in his notes, Jordan indicates that Galad is himself a wielder of the one power, even if he himself does not realize it at the end of the series.
Okay, we definitely need to
Hell
spend
yes.
time on this one. Do you? So this is just a note. So do you think this is something that he did keep in the books? Like, do you think this is accurate to the actual books, or something he
I
was thinking about?
Do
Mm-hmm.
All
I do.
right,
Oh, yes.
make your cases. Make your cases. Was there any? Are there any hints or
The
clues in the
fight
books?
with Valda. The whole description of how he gets himself ready for the fight with Valda, that is the oneness. That is the brink of being able to touch the source.
Wow.
Plus, it's a genetically it's a
Right.
genetic trait, and he's half brother with Rand.
Mhm.
And half brother with Elaine, also an incredibly powerful channeler on the other
Mhm.
side.
That's
So
true.
Right,
both
like-
sides.
Got it from both parents. Like,
Yep.
So which side of we never hear anything about Tigraine being able to channel, do we? So who do you think then of Rand's parents could channel?
I assumed it was Tigraine for no reason.
Fair enough.
I mean, either of them could have had it recessively.
Right. And I don't think they necessarily had the channel, but they could pass it down. Like Jondwin, could be
Right, if they- just a learner instead of a sparkler.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or could skip a
But
generation.
with the-
Skipped a generation.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've always read that passage where he just gets into that like Cody oneness kind of space. It's just like, is he about to channel? And then he doesn't. But like, I feel like this note validates that headcanon.
I was kind of blown away by this one, and I didn't know if it was, again, like the way Livingston presents it, I didn't know if it was just saying like this is one of the notes he found, and he wasn't sure if it was like in the books or if it was just something that he knew for sure.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think it's like, I think you could take either stance on the way he's written it, because obviously a lot of these other things were in the notes and are not in the book.
Mhm.
So this kind of seems like it might be in there, and it's like how you're reading it, I guess.
He did say he didn't say was a wielder of the power too, or at one point was a wielder of the power. This is like a question we probably should have asked Livingston when we talked to him. But I know he didn't want to get too deep into like the spoilery parts of the.
Yeah, I
his
was trying to.
book.
We were trying to stay away from like, tell us what happens on page 17 of the book. Like,
But maybe at one of the
Um,
cons we could ask him, like, I wonder,
That's it.
because we know he was very intentional and deliberate about what he put in here and how he put it in here. So I'm wondering if he kind of put it in here this way on purpose to kind of be a little ambiguous, just to get the fandom kind of thinking and talking about it.
well, it worked.
Yeah, he must have met us somewhere.
And for some reason, I think of Galad as the Neville Longbottom of the series,
I
right?
was
Like
just
he's
thinking that.
yeah,
Mm, back up.
yep.
The alternative, the
The alternative.
understudy.
The
right?
other son.
Oh yeah.
The other one who also lost a hand, right? Like he also he's the brother. It's like there's a lot of parallels between their journeys.
Yeah, Gwen has a brief crush and then moves
Yep.
on.
That's right.
I love that she has a crush on brothers. That's
She's got a type.
It's
Yeah.
weird that they don't make a bigger deal. Like, I'm not like too up on the last couple of books, but they don't really make a big deal about them being brothers, right?
No,
No.
that's that
Weird,
disappointed
like-
me a little bit. Like I was hoping, like when you find out and make the connection that they're half brothers, like I thought that was going to mean something a little more, but they kind of didn't really
Yeah.
do anything. I think Rand finds out, right?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rand's known for a
he
long
knows.
time.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. He
Gal-
knows. Yeah, he does know.
And then Gawain gives the information to Galad like with his dying breath. And Galad's like,
okay.
huh,
okay, that's
I'm
what
gonna
I'm
go
thinking.
kill
Alright, so maybe
what's his face
no,
instead.
yeah.
So
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay. Yeah, I was a little upset that they didn't get to play that. Did they have? I don't remember now. Did they ever have a scene, a moment together? No, right?
No.
That's so
No.
sad. Except that
Too
one
much.
moment
Yes.
Too much
when
happening.
he was going to go
In the first book.
in the first book when he's going to go tell on him.
Oh yeah, they meet.
The one time they interact. Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. I was upset about that. Thinking about it, like I thought that was cool when you find out they're half brothers, and you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
going to mean something later on, and it's like, no, it really didn't.
Well, I mean,
It didn't
again,
pay
if you
off.
read I mean, this full entry kind of talks about the original idea for Galad was, I mean, it was much more convoluted, and a lot of that got taken out immediately. But like that he was going to be an illegitimate son of Morghese and Lan, which wow,
Yeah.
and that
I think we should talk about land next.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
Sure.
Let's tie it into
Before we
the-
move on, I just want to say that maybe Jordan did plan on doing something else with this, and it just wasn't like specifically in the notes, so it
Yeah,
just didn't get put in.
it didn't get
Could have
put
been one
in,
of those
yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Well, you really see the whole royal family of Camelin was just totally different in his original notes. It was much more closely based on Camelot and the Arthurian legend, and Lan was Lancelot, and Lan did all the things that Lancelot did, including have sex with Morghese and have an illegitimate son and betray everybody and kill a lot of people, and it's a totally different character than what made it into the final book.
I do like though the way the name came about, like, or at least the combination, right? Because Galad is a Galahad Mordred figure, and then right, so you got Galad Damodred, but then he throws in the sword, the Damocles in there to also throw into there to get the Damo part. So like Galad and then Damo Mordred, combining that
Isn't it
together.
Isn't it Galadadred?
Yeah.
It's not in the glossary, but that's like his full name. in the
Yeah, it
book.
is Galadadred, right? Yeah.
Oh
yeah, so
Like
that's-
a lot of
so much fun.
lot of letters in that.
Yeah, that's Scott's combination between Galahad and Mordred.
Yeah.
Galadadred.
Galadadred, Damodred.
And
They
then
call me
Batman.
Galad. It's cool.
Yeah, we'll stick with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place. I think when we talked about the Elaine entry last week, we also talked about like the Lan and Morghese and
Okay.
that connection, and how Galad was going to be the son, and Rand was going to be, right? Wasn't Rand going to supposedly sleep with Morghese, and he changed that part, and
Yeah.
that's crazy though. But you want to jump over to Lan since we kind of brought him up here.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's do it. I feel like I have to jump so many more pages this week, but yeah, obviously, like you said, Seth Lancelot, and then I like the idea though. He said Lan's love for Nynaeve makes him break from Moraine and brings him into conflict with Rand in open opposition, which obviously didn't happen necessarily. Then there's like question marks. He will flee to become a hermit, though he will return for the final battle.
I love all the question marks there. He's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it comes back.
I mean, he does flee, right, when Moraine dies.
Yeah.
right.
So
returns.
I mean, he kind of kept that part in there, which I thought, which is interesting. But yeah, again, the secret lover of Morghese and the father of Galad. I wonder how that would have worked out if he did that. So then Lan is the secret lover of Morghese. They have Galad. That gets rid of Tarangel.
Well, then Galad wasn't even isn't Morghese's son. So that's like the whole story is changed. Like he's
true.
like the child of two completely different people. It's not like
Yeah,
a different
some of
father.
the some of like the Galad has good intentions but gets swayed to the dark side of things, gets taken up by Gawain. I think Gawain doesn't get swayed to the dark, but he does get swayed to
To the
I don't
dumb.
know, to the dumb. Yeah.
Well, Galad gets swayed to the White Cloaks.
Like he's
So it's
swayed.
not-
I don't know
He
if Galad gets
chooses that.
swayed
It's
to the
not
White
like-
Cloaks. Like it seems like he's all in on them from the get-go, it seems like.
But I don't think he's a little naive and doesn't understand. He doesn't know what the White Cloaks are really about
Yeah,
necessarily.
he wants to be what they should be. But
Yeah.
they're not. That's
It's like
hopefully changes.
It's kind of like the moving Trading Day, when Ethan Hawke wants to be in, Denzel Washington's unit because they do really cool things, and then when he gets in there, he realizes they're all fucking dirty ass cops.
It's exactly like
It's exactly like Training Day.
Well, if
King
I can
Kong
just
ain't got
tangent-
shit on me.
Yeah, I hope there's a scene where Val gets him to take PCP in season 3. I didn't know you like to get wet.
And then in a related side tangent, I noticed that Lothar Mantelar, founder of the White Cloaks, his name comes from literal Martin Luther.
I write that one down
Oh.
too, and that's a really cool one too. I love these connections that I just never thought of or never even, occurred to me, but it fits perfectly.
Yeah, and he has it like, the split between the Catholics and the Protestants is a huge bloody mess that lasts for centuries, much like the White Cloaks and the Aes Sedai, or the White Cloaks and literally everyone, kind of like the Catholics and literally everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, and it's so appropriate to Galat, right? Because his whole thing is like getting back to this very pure thing, this very logical thing. And it's like, I mean, I watched one documentary about Martin Luther, like in so many ways he was on the right track, but then he also turned around and was like, if you read the Bible and don't interpret it like I did, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
So like that contradiction very much feels echoed in how the White Cloaks look at the world.
Yeah, and I think we even talked about it again last week when Aes Sedai, and Jordan makes a lot of the Aes Sedai and the structure and their, the way they organize and whatnot, he talks about is very close to, he got it from the Catholic Church. So it makes sense that, Martin Luther, Lothar Mantelar would be the one who kind of opposes them, the Catholic Church and the Aes Sedai. So it was a pretty awesome, subtle, brilliant connection, I thought, that he made there.
Yeah.
I like that. And I like how he does this a couple of times where he kind of switches the first name and last name and kind of mixes them up to come up with the character's name.
yeah.
Like I think
That's
that's in the Matt entry, right? Cotton Mather. That's how he gets Matt's last name. He kind of mixes him with Cotton Mather, although there's very little connection, I think, that he points out with the two of them. Except for the fact that he distrusts the witches, right? And Matt doesn't like Aes Sedai. I don't know if he would burn them at the stake, but I think that's more of a Valdez thing.
Maybe at the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Then he ends up rescuing a bunch and smuggling them in the circus. So
Dagger Matt, no
Yeah.
problem.
right. Yeah.
Yes, Dagger
Very
Matt
true.
would do a lot. Jen, you have one you want to bring up?
Sure. This one is short, but I just thought it was interesting. So, Lanfear.
Oh, yes.
So her name, I don't know how to pronounce this, but her name derives from French l'enfer, I guess, meaning hell, combined with the English word fear. I just always have thought Lanfear was a weird name for this character. I was like, where did he come up with Lanfear? Like now I know it means hell, which makes sense.
Yeah,
I just always was like, it's like she's this beautiful woman, and like I just thought Lanfear was such like an odd name for her, but
I took 3 years of French in high school, and I don't remember learning the word hell for there. Maybe that's because I went to a
The
I
Catholic
was
school.
Inferno,
in
Jen.
Catholic school.
I guess
Yeah.
because I went to a Catholic school. I
Well,
thought
maybe
that
we
would be
should have
one of the
learned
first
it.
words they would have taught.
Yeah.
Like you're all going. How do you say you're going to hell
Where
in
you're
French?
going. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one too because I didn't know that it derived from hell. Obviously fear,
Mhm.
but I didn't know where the land part came from, and it didn't come from Land himself. There was another. Since we're on the page though, like right above it, one of my favorite ones is Layla Dern. It's just simply
Yeah.
it was likely modeled on that of the actress Laura Dern.
But like in that case, is that just like Michael Livingston, like coming up with that on his own?
He
Or
says
is that
her name. It seems he doesn't.
yeah?
Like-
There's a couple of them in here where it's like it's possible, or it's this, it's that. I'm wondering if some of them he's just like conjecturing
I was
himself.
wondering that too. Like that seems really thin, dude. I don't know.
Like
I
it
don't-
wouldn't
the
be in
only
the
thing of
notes.
is that, like,
Laura,
it
like
was,
it's
like,
a picture of Laura Dern like taped into his notebook with like hearts around it.
He's a big fan
Like,
of her work.
first time
Yeah.
First time was like right after what's the one? The first one with her where Blue Velvet.
Velvet?
Like right
He was
after
a big
like
Blue
Blue Velvet
Velvet
or Wild
fan?
at Heart
Yeah.
came out.
I bet it's based on like a conversation with Harriet where he was like, "Who is this based on?" And she's like, "Well, he really liked Lorna Dern."
Maybe, yeah.
You know, like so there's I'm willing to bet there's some interview questions that got answered in it where
Maybe.
especially around like the garden wall was the wall right outside his window,
Yeah.
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
Gary's
He's
wall.
probably just like, yeah, that's probably the wall he was looking
Yeah.
at when he came up with that name.
Mhm.
We talked last week about the Jen stove for the Jen Aiel.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
maybe he was.
yeah.
Yeah, he was probably just a big Laura Dern fan. Maybe he had a crush on her. Who knows? I like that one though. I thought that was funny.
I mean, who doesn't?
Aradia, you got one you want to bring up?
Yeah, I'll do another. I'll do a quick one. Magdan Dorlane.
I love this one.
Yeah, the name that Morghese takes after she abdicates the throne and is gonna go have a stalker and whatever else she does with her life. The surname derives from the French de Orléans. So her whole name, and Magdan comes from maiden. So her whole name is literally the Maid of Orléans, otherwise known as Joan of Arc.
Yeah, how
That
weird
is a very common name for Joan of Arc.
how weird is that?
Morghese somehow reinvents herself into Joan of Arc. This means that she has a whole arc after she like murders Talonvor as he deserves and leaves him in a ditch. She's got a whole arc. She's got a whole arc left to become Joan of Arc. The
Yeah,
whole Joan of Arc.
I would. Yeah, this one was bizarre to me, which was why I liked it. I was like, wait a second, Morghese, Joan, but I mean, it's her fake name. So is she fake Joan of Arc? I don't know what.
But she takes it on as her new name. She's like, I can't be Morghese Tricand anymore. Like, it's not just an alias.
She goes back to Morghese though.
Does she?
Yeah, I actually just listening to that part. This is like I was so frustrated listening to it in the Towers of Midnight when she comes back to Elaine, and literally, right? Elaine thinks her mother's dead. Galad shows up with Morghese alive, and the first thing Elaine thinks about is like, oh no, like this is gonna screw up my claim to my queen. You know, how is this gonna affect my queendom? That was the first thing Elaine thought of. How horrible of a daughter is she?
She's as bad of a daughter as Nynaeve was of a friend when Moraine fell through the doorway and her first thought was of Lamb.
Yes. Although Nynaeve wasn't Moraine's friend. She didn't like Moraine.
Well, no, but the hug that she gives her at the end and all the regret she has in the
yeah.
books in between. 2020 rose-colored revision.
Okay.
But no, you're very right. Does she really take the name Morghese again at that
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
I totally thought she stuck with Magdan.
No,
I'm not as good with the last three books as with the rest of
I'm
them.
at that part.
Like,
I just literally listened to that part today, so that's the only reason why I know it, because otherwise I probably wouldn't remember. It's fresh in my mind, and I just thought about how horrible Elaine was. And even like as the conversation continues on, she's just constantly thinking of like, okay, we have to give my mother like a special position. We're probably gonna have to send her away because all it is about how it affects her queendom. And I'm like, you're so horrible. You thought your mother was dead, and this is what
Ruler's gonna
dominates
ruler.
your thoughts.
the rulers are bad people.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes
If you
me
want to
like,
be a queen, don't.
makes me dislike Elaine even more. So
What was that about overthrowing bad generals in 2 months? I think could we do more of that with like CEOs? That would be great.
but yeah, this was
only
definitely
take one.
definitely a surprising one. Joan of Arc. Seth, you got one?
I gotta go with Jacob Carradine. That's
Another
my. I thought that was really interesting, and I think it's based on two pillars, called Jashin and Boraz, right? So his first name, and one is associated with light, and the other one with darkness. So you've got this white cloak who's a dark friend. So you have these two pillars. The one which is his first name, which he uses as a white cloak, and that's the one associated with light, and the one that's basically Bors, his dark friend name, and that one's associated with dark, and then his last name is something else. But yeah, I love the way he came up with the duality of those two names, which kind of links a little bit to Lewis Theron Telamon and the Venus
Yes.
entry. But, yeah.
Mhm.
Because Venus is the fallen star, so you got
Mhm.
Lucifer as the fallen star, and so but it's also a bright star,
The dawn, the coming of the light.
right? So it's the light bringer, right? So there's a lot of uh, biblical associations with that and Lucifer and the way that applies to the contrast of light and dark and the way he does it with like a couple of different characters in a couple of very different ways. So I like those.
Yeah, he says the
Jacob Sheridan doesn't
meetings.
deserve to be in such elevated company, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, and he says the actual meaning, right, of Jachin and Boaz is it will establish and strength,
Mm-hmm.
which maybe doesn't connect as much. But I thought it was interesting too that they apparently these pillars are prominent symbols in Masonic lodges for the Freemasons.
Which Jordan was one.
Yeah,
which-
Jordan knows a thing or two.
So I'm assuming that's where he got it from, or that's where it came into his mind. But I also like how you brought up Lews Therin because there was something really cool about that. Just to kind of segue over to that, just because it makes it nice. The Telamon part, which is what I thought was the most fascinating part of it. Telamon, let's see, what does it say? In Greek mythology, is the father of greater Ajax. Due to a story of him hastily constructing an altar of stone to prevent his death at the hand of Hercules. Telamon's name is given to the architectural feature of a colossal stone columns in the shape of men. And then at the end here, in the Wheel of Time, Lews Therin is both the strongest of channelers and one who makes himself a kind of colossal stone altar, aka Dragon Mount. I was like, whoa, I got chills reading that one.
That was cool.
That was a very cool one. That was layers deep.
Yeah. And then the strength also because Graves in the White Goddess argues that Telamon is a misremembered representation of Hercules. So that's where you get the strength of like Lews Therin being the strongest channeler, and then the stone of him turning into Dragon Mount.
Did you guys talk about Dragon Mount on the last episode? Because that was a cool entry.
Yes, that's where the one where it's reference to Tolkien, right? The Lonely Mountain
Mhm.
and
The mountains, yeah.
Mount Doom, yeah.
Mhm.
And the duality of
Right.
the two mountains,
Yeah.
Dragon Mount and Shile Ghul, and
Oh, cool. Yeah.
yeah, that was another cool one too. Tom,
It's like duality is a theme or something in the books.
yeah.
Hadn't picked up on that.
No, I'm just I'm trying to find some a good next entry. That's all.
You
We're
want
going
you
to
want, you want to
we
start
went to M
rotates?
tonight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go to Mahale. I like this one because there's a lot of layers to it. And I picked on some, but not all of them, I guess, in reading. So it's quick enough. I'll read the whole thing. Right? The title Mazrim Taim gives himself and the name he took when he was made one of the Forsaken. Mahale is said to mean leader in the old tongue. It's clearly a broken version of the name of the leader of God's armies, the Archangel Michael. I didn't get that, so I don't know how clearly it was, but fine. The corrupted derivation says much about Taim's corrupted nature, especially as it also echoes the German word Hail, meaning hail, which is commonly connected to the phrase Hail Hitler. That's the connection that I made, right?
Mhm.
Because I feel like there's so much stuff in the Black Tower that models like the Nazis. So but yeah, I had no idea about the Archangel Michael connection and how he's the leader of God's armies, but which God, that's sort of the
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, it's just taking away the I and the C from Michael.
I know
really.
it's
Yeah.
it's
It
there,
was
I
so
guess.
weird.
It's with an apostrophe to literally tell you it's a
Yeah.
contraction,
Right.
but I just didn't get that.
Michael. They start calling him Michael instead of Mahale. Hey, Mike, the leader of God's armies. That's the little.
No,
that's
I've
the
even
part that-
seen like that picture shared on like Facebook groups or whatever, where it's like a Michael's, but some of the letters are out, and
Yeah.
it literally says "Imhales."
Yeah.
Yes. I remember seeing that once. That is cool. Yeah, this one again was like weird because it was as soon as he explains it, you're like, holy shit. Yeah, that's a clear connection, and how we got from Michael to Mahale was so simple, and like never ever picked up on that, like thinking that like, oh, the apostrophe means letters were taken out at some point, which it does mean, right, in language. Um, but the connection with Michael, interesting one, definitely interesting for sure. And there's a lot in here about, we talked about some of the references. There's a lot in here about Welsh mythology, about Arthurian mythology, Norse mythology, which there's a cool Norse one that I want to talk about in a little bit. But also biblical things in here that he pulled from too. So one of the cooler ones for sure. And I am gonna jump to the one that I wanted to talk about Norse mythology, because we're up to the letter, the Horn of Valere. I wanted to bring this one up. So this is comes from the Horn of Gjal. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but it's something in Norse mythology. So when the time comes for Ragnarok, the last battle, the god Heimdall will blow this horn to summon the slain warrior heroes from Valhalla to fight. Sound familiar? And then also he talks about at the same time in the instant of it sounding by Olver, it echoes the Oliphant that Olivier begged to be blown in the Song of Roland. I'm not familiar with the Song of Roland. Does anyone know what that is?
Nope.
No.
A little bit, just because I'm a big fan of the Dark Tower books. And
That's my reference as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's not where it comes from though, right?
No, the Dark Tower is in part based on
The Song of Roland.
the Song of Roland.
Okay.
So that's I did a little bit of reading on it, but I've never read the actual tale.
This the Norse mythology ones are actually really cool. I like a lot of the connections in here to the Norse mythology, and I didn't realize, like, I know a little bit about Norse mythology, but I didn't realize that this is exactly like Jordan just took this almost like exactly from there. And it's kind of rare that, because he doesn't usually do that a lot, like where he just pulls something direct, and this is like exactly the same thing. So I was a little surprised by it. He seemed to be
It's
a little
almost
bit more
Tolkien-esque in his level of plagiarizing.
Jen, you got one you wanna?
Yeah, I'll do one. So I have this is weird, but I'm gonna Livingston you. Ready?
Okay. I don't know what that
So
means.
I'm gonna go with, you'll know when I'm done.
Oh.
So Janduin was Rand's biological father, and his name comes from Joachim, who in Christian mythology is a father of the Virgin Mary. So my father-in-law's middle name is Joachim. Okay.
Okay.
His son, my husband's name is Dan, and all of those letters are in the name Rand. And then my name, Jennifer, comes from Genevieve or Guinevere, who was Arthur's wife.
Oh, so you're saying
Nice.
you're this age's
Yeah, putting myself
Rand and-
into I'm Livingston-ing my family. There you go.
Excellent.
When this is funny because this comes right after the Jacob Carradine one, and when he said the Joachim, I was like, that's kind of, it seemed closer to Jacob, but I guess the connection wasn't there. It was more for this one.
Yeah, a lot of these sound like the same name, and then they're all coming from different inspirations. It's weird. Like it sounds like they're all coming from the same place, but they're all like a slightly different variation of a name.
Well, there's also
I had no idea that was pronounced Joachim.
Well, is
Yeah.
it
That was
Joaquin?
It's
Yeah.
not Joaquin. It's Joaquin if there's a Q, I guess, but this one is Joachim.
It's Joachim
Appar-
Noah.
up-
He was a
according to my
basketball player. Joachim Noah.
grandmother-in-law and father-in-law, it's Joachim.
So there's also the other connection too, that at the end here, that Joachim, he went out, right? Him and his wife were childless, and they were promised a child after he fasted in the desert for 40 days. So there's kind of the connection of him having the child and then disappearing because she died, his wife died, and then wandering in the desert.
And living in the desert, yeah.
There's a connection, although it didn't
Or
turn out as
wandering,
well
you're right,
for
wandering in the
Janduin as it
desert.
did, and his family, as it did for Joachim and his family.
Well, it says when he returned, he met her at the Golden Gate of Jerusalem. So maybe that's like when they both died. They met each other. So
Well,
in death.
Weren't they fathers of the Virgin Mary?
Yeah, he
parents-
was the father of Mary.
No, I'm saying Jandu and Tigraine.
Oh,
what I mean, like- After he
Instead of
went
being
into the
father of the
desert,
Virgin
yeah.
Mary, though, he's father of the Dragon Reborn.
father of
right.
I don't see a connection between that.
he's the
and
grandfather of the Jesus.
Rand. The Jesus.
I was gonna say this. He's the grandfather of Jesus, and the father of the Jesus analogy
Okay.
Father
in
of
our
the
story.
Don't fuck with
He's the
Jesus.
grandfather
The
of
Jesus.
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 Every good story needs one of those, the Jesus character.
Yes, they do.
Like the character from The Big Lebowski, that Jesus, the Jesus,
Yeah, the Jesus.
the Jesus.
Fuck you in the ass on Saturday. Fuck you in the ass on Tuesday instead. Sorry.
Now I want to watch The Big Lebowski.
Anyways.
Radia, do you want to go?
Sure. I've got another weird biblical one. I mean, if you consider, fan fiction to be biblical. Laman Damodred. According to the Book of Mormon, Laman was the eldest son of the prophet Lehi, blah, blah, blah. He is all about the tree. So this is where the Mormons are like the Native Americans are actually the people that didn't eat from the tree of life because space travel or whatever. So in this story, Laman is the guy who's like, I won't touch the tree because I'm awesome. Wheel of Time. Laman is like, I'm going to cut that tree. I'm going to kill that tree so hard. I am going to not just eat from the tree, I'm going to make a throne from the tree. And so I thought that was kind of a fun, Jordan's taking this one story and being like, but what if literally the opposite?
Yeah, it's exactly what happened. Instead of refusing to eat from the tree of life, he cut it down.
You can't
No
even
one
grow
eats
more
from-
food from it. Now it's just dead.
And made a throne out of it. Well, I guess he didn't eat from the tree, though, so that's still the connection there. Instead, he cut it down and
Sat
built a
on
throne out
the
of it.
tree.
He consumed the tree and turned it into a throne.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
and-
what happened. Do they say what happens to the throne that he built? Did the Aiel, take it or something when they came and killed him? Did they
I
ever
feel
talk
like
about
there's
that?
a line that nobody knows what happens to the throne. But I'm not sure.
Yeah. I never thought about that until now.
Because you'd think that burning it would be disrespectful, but maybe it's like a flag. You're like, the only way to put this to rest is through fire.
Yeah, like an ash to ash, dust to dust kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
maybe they burned it and took the ashes back with them and put it into the soil of Avendisora.
That would make more sense, especially for the traveling, because it sounds like a big piece of furniture to carry.
Yeah.
I just I just always picture they kill him and the second he's dead, they just turn around and start
Yeah.
walking back to the ways.
Well,
Okay,
Yeah, right, because
he
wasn't in Kyrian when they killed him, so
he
but
was
they-
or he wasn't.
he wasn't, I don't think,
No,
right?
He wasn't. They killed him outside of.
They killed him outside the the Battle of Shining Walls.
In the blood snow.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he had run away.
But they had sacked the city though, right? Did they sack the entire city? I
They
don't
probably
even know.
took their
The city had been
That's
sacked
it.
by then, because
Yeah.
they just turn and go home once.
And
they
the
kill him.
topless towers of Carian burned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So who started that fire? Someone burning a throne.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That would track. Yeah. The throne had to be burned, and it was such a big fire that literally this whole city had to burn, except for the libraries because they Yale value books.
Yeah, because they wouldn't there's no way they would let them keep that throne.
No.
So people could sit on it in the future. No, they had to burn it or something.
I mean, what do you do with the corpses of the beloved dead?
Right.
Burn them.
Yeah, I think that's what the Aiel do.
Either
so.
that or bury them. I mean, the Aiel bury people. They don't burn them because there's not enough wood in the waste.
Not
But
true. Now they have wood.
given that the chair is made of wood, you got an option.
I like that. Seth.
This one's a little faster. It's ethereal, actually. So Jordan came up with a name for an old kingdom and he called it ethereal. And then he wanted to talk about the fall of the men of ethereal. And he's like, that doesn't go. The fall of the men of Etherean. I like that better. the fall of Manetheren. And then like I love how that comes together as just literally him sort of sounding it out, and how the men of Etherin became Manetheren.
That's another one with the Rudes kind of
Yeah.
murder all, merge all, machine of sin, machin shin.
Yeah, he's really high and trying to work out that whole.
Yeah, and here we get to just like unspool his chain of thought,
Yeah.
like
Right.
following all the little like rabbit squirrel tracks.
He also talks about and I don't know what he talks about here, the Manetho, which is a historian in the 3rd century, whose chronology of Egypt is vital to our understanding of the past. But I don't know, like, I don't see the connection on that one, except for like the history of Manetheren. That's the connection, historian, and Manetheren is a historical place, and it's kind of the history of it is kind of important to the story. But I like the man of Etherin much better. Manetheren. Who goes? Tom, you're up, right?
Am I?
I think you are.
Oh man, I'm not ready.
Do you not ready? I can do a quick one or a quick group.
Do a quick one.
I'll do a quick group. So there's a bunch in here that are all referenced to Tolkien. You've got the Fields of Merilor, where they fight the last battle, is reminiscent of the Pelennor Fields, which is kind of the last battle that they fight in the Lord of the Rings. You've got Hurin, which is directly from the Silmarillion of Hurin. You've also got the Mountains of Doom, which is reminiscent of Mount Doom in Lord of the Rings. And the reminiscent. And then the Mountains of Mist, which is reminiscent of the Misty Mountains in Tolkien. So I just kind of I had those all grouped together just because they were all Tolkien references that were pretty clear. And I think the entries were all very, very short because it just was like, this is from Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to belabor the point, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah. How you doing there, Tom? You want me to skip you?
All right, so I'll pull up this one just because I don't know. I got the reference, but I didn't understand the reference when I was reading the books, and I thought it was. I still don't after reading this, but that's fine. So, Farmatting, right? Farmatting is an independent city-state sitting alone on the plains of Moredo. Its name harkens to Thomas Hardy's 1874 romance, Far from the Madding Crowd, which I was like, when I was reading it, I'm like, he's got to be making a reference to that book that I've never read, and I still haven't, and I still don't know why the reference is there, but at least I know that I was right in that. So.
It's comforting that you were right.
And then whatever they talk about, like how they have the peace bonded weapons in there, and that's a reference to Tombstone.
Yes.
And the shoot of the OK Corral, which goes back to the plains of Laredo and like the streets of Laredo, and like having all sorts of like kind of a Western theme that I did not pick up in Farmatting at all, but seems to have some sort of base level inspiration for it.
Yeah, I never got a Western theme in Farmatting. And actually, right, doesn't he say also that's the only true matriarchy in the Wheel of Time, that one city?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I didn't get
I think it's an interesting entry, and that's one of the ones that I guess I have to do more reading now on my own.
It's actually kind of funny because me and Aradia just got to Farmatting in the WoT Spoilers podcast, and we were saying this is really his only true matriarchy. And then I think we read this and we're like, oh yeah, we were actually really right about that. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and you also that's when you told me about this whole Far from the Madding Crowd thing.
Oh yeah, I
like,
mentioned that. Yeah.
What? I've never heard of that before. So
It's
I just know that it exists. I don't know anything about it.
I don't know why it's in my head though. It's like it's a book that I've heard of before, and somehow in my youth it got in my head that was a book that I should know and should read, but no idea why.
It must have been one of those 15,000 books in Jordan's library.
Right.
I'm sure. That one did strike me too, Tom, because of the reference to Tombstone. I think more so than anything else. Because like you, I never even heard of that book, let alone have read it or even know what it's about. But
It's
the
such
Tombstone
an interesting title,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Oh.
Far from the madding crowd. I don't know. You're gonna have to read the book to find out what that is. Maybe that's
They
why
made a
it's titled
movie
that
out of
way.
it.
You
I
gonna
might
watch
cheat.
the movie.
I don't know if it's good.
Is it
Sounds
an
like a
old-
nature hike. I'll
is
be
it an
honest.
old movie. It's
That's
gotta
far
be
from the
old.
maddening crowd.
Oh.
Oh, you probably go mad watching that one. Jen. We'll do another round.
Sure. This one I just thought was funny. Madden Todand. So the nobleman whose founding of Altara is celebrated on Madden's Day in late January. He likely echoes John Madden,
Yes.
who was a frequent color commentator of Super Bowls in late January, beginning in 1982. So I have a question though. Are there months in the Wheel of Time like our months? There
Yeah,
are?
we did. Jen, we did a
Yeah.
whole episode of the
I don't
calendar.
remember.
Come on
It was a
now.
long time ago. Whatever. Okay.
You're
Well, I just thought that was
embarrassing
funny,
me.
John Madden. I'm
Not that I
sorry,
know
I don't
any of the
remember
months.
everything.
There aren't 12 months either. There's like 11 or 13. It's like all
13.
Yeah.
13.
Oh,
is
there's
the
like the
lunar.
extra months in there. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Like
the weeks are
feast
10
days
days, so
that are
Yeah.
independent of the calendar.
I remember we had gotten in an
Yeah.
argument. I don't know if we ever. I think we settled it like a foot for them is 10 inches, right? But we were
But
trying
the
to.
inches
We
are
were trying to
bigger.
determine if like the foot is 10 inches, but the inches are bigger, so a foot in the Wheel of Time is still the same size as a foot in our
Yeah,
world
I think that's what we came up
because
with.
the inches are bigger, but there's only 10. I don't know.
Well, it's based around a anatomical thing versus inches, which are just a subdivision of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that Jordan put in a John Madden reference. We know Jordan was a football player. I'm surprised there aren't more football references in here because he was a big football player. Played for Clemson, as we learned in here, which I had never known. Yeah, John Madden, rest in peace. They were doing a lot of John Madden on Thanksgiving, the games. They were talking a lot about him, and I was like, didn't he die? He died like a couple of years ago, though, so it was weird that they were doing something now for him, but they never really explained why they were doing it. I don't know if it was like an anniversary or something like that, but
Well, you see, when you got to name a lot of characters, you're gonna have to come up with a lot of names.
Yeah.
yeah, he couldn't find anything in books, so he was watching football one day.
Yeah,
and was
just
like,
watching
"I'll put that
football one
in
day.
there."
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah. Aradia.
all right, I've got one more in here, which is kind of a weird one. Gareth Bryn.
Okay.
He's part of the Arthurian original cast that has been absolutely hacked into something else. But what I found interesting about him is that, quote, in the formation of Gareth's character as a military man, Jordan relied heavily on what he knew of the reputation of Confederate General Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
I'm like, this
Yeah.
is one of the most wholesome and correct characters. And you built him on a Confederate general, and not just any Confederate general.
Like the Confederate
Oh, you're
General,
from
yeah.
the South, dude, but like the wholesome general, that
So Tom, I want to ask you this question because it says here the parallel made clear by their beloved horses, both named Traveler. Did you make the connection? Because I know you're a Civil War buff.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, because of that, like I was like, oh, he's gonna be a bad guy. That was my thought.
Oh,
Because Robert E. Lee is a bad guy. Like, and I know,
Spoilers.
like I know that like he got kind of canonicized in the South, and like they kind of whitewashed away all of his being a slaveholder and like that kind of stuff.
As someone who
yeah.
grew up in the South, he was held up as a hero to me, and I'm sure that Robert Jordan, a man of the South, was probably thought of him as that way. You know, I'm sure that he didn't really totally comprehend. That's not even the right word, but you know, that was a hero in his life growing up, and as someone who went to war, as someone who grew up in the South and had war heroes, and before we really went back and re-examined some of the more horrible things that they did.
That's true. I would say that I've read like a lot more of his kind of like re-adjudicating his role in things in the last like 20 plus years, like really relatively recently, because I think there there's a myth about him, and
Mhm.
that I guess is who they're like this character is based on, like the George Washington that we grew up reading like in grade school, that cut down the cherry tree, like like
Right.
that's none of that's real. Like he lied all the
Right.
time, but like like
Apollo
that's the
Mars?
same kind of a thing, right? I think is what this is.
So
But
he's
yeah,
building
I
from
did.
the
I was like,
myth.
I was like, oh yeah, he's got the horse traveler. I guess he's gonna. Although he does lead the rebel armies.
Yeah, he does lead the rebel.
I just realized
Yeah.
that right now when we were talking about it. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't something-
He like abandons, quote unquote, the one thing, is adrift, joins a rebel cause.
Think about it. It's not. It's there. It's there.
I
Wait,
mean,
does that make
legends
the
fade to
rebels
myth
the
and lots of
bad
details
guys?
get warped.
Ouch.
So
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah,
Yeah.
only the rebels, I guess, are the good people. Although, to be honest with you, I
Well-
mean, in the Wheel of Time, there's only a couple of really bad people on either side. The rest of them are all just, just
yeah,
misguided and kind of in the wrong place.
very complicated coup in the Wheel of Time.
Yeah. But I don't think we got. This is our first great general that we gotten up to, right? All of them seem to be much. I think are all much later on, right? Did we?
Esmeralda's in
Is
this.
Esmeralda in this one?
Yeah.
He is in this one. Let's
No, I
jump to
skipped
him.
right on by him.
Yeah, he's in this one. Let's just jump to him since we were talking about. No, he isn't in here.
Maybe they reference him in somebody else.
Maybe he's in Rodel. Under
He's in
Yeah, I
Rodel.
think he's
No,
on the
we didn't
arc.
get up to Road.
not in-
I
he's
thought I
not
read
on the
something
eye.
about him today. Where does? Maybe it was a battle that he was in or something.
Yeah,
I remember reading his
Maradon.
name. Yeah.
right.
yeah,
Maradon.
he's
a
mentioned in
key feature.
Yeah, that's because there's also a lot of battles in here, which we kind of skipped through. I don't know if anyone wants to talk about battles,
Yeah, there you go.
but Maradon is here, and let's go to it. Let's
Yeah,
just
he's
skip
in
to
that
it
one.
since you bring it up, and we talked about him, because this was interesting too, because they talk a little bit about him and his role in the battle and Maradon and that whole part. But the sequence contains echoes of this is the Battle of Maradon. The sequence contains echoes of several ancient Greek battles, from Thermopylae to Marathon, the latter of which being the source of its name. Which I think I kind of connected that Marathon, I think, when I read the books. And then you really kind of get it when you actually get to the battle at the end of the book. So, yeah, that one's a cool one. But we only got the one great general. So it'd be interesting to see, because again, I didn't read ahead. I don't know if I'm interested to see.
Agilmar,
Yeah,
we
we
skipped Agilmar.
We did skip
he was in the-
Alomar, yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's there.
It's not based
there,
off
but
another
it wasn't-
general,
It
though,
wasn't.
like a real general. He just right. I don't remember him being actually based off. I'm curious if some of the other generals are based off of real life generals.
No,
have to
he's
wait
not.
we'll have to wait till next week for that one. I don't even remember. Was that you, Aradia, who did that one?
That was
Seth?
me. Yeah. that was
Okay,
mine.
so Seth.
I got to talk about Moghedian because there's always the controversy around the pronunciation of Moghedian, right? Like, and so I was like, I have to know where this comes from. And then I love the fact her name comes from Mogadon, the brand name for the hypnotic drug nitrazepam. Butchering that pronunciation. Yeah, which is used to treat insomnia. So her name is from a drug that fucks with your dreams, right? Like that's such a
Yes.
great and then also it's a drug. Like how often? Like he doesn't get his names from drugs. He does
No.
myths and legends, and Moghedian's a drug, right?
But
Like that's so
we
out of
do-
nowhere.
We do play that game. Wheel
Yeah.
of Time name or pharmaceutical.
Pharmaceutical.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Yeah, or real life location or pharmaceutical.
So
yes.
Moghedian's basically both at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mogadon's a brand name. Yeah, the brand name for hypnotic
Yeah.
drug. Yeah, nitrazepam, I guess is the word. But
Yeah.
I wonder, what the connection to Jordan is with this one. Like, it was commercials on TV. Were there drug
That's what I
commercials on
assumed.
TV back then? I don't even know.
Oh yeah, late night, staying up,
90s?
can't think of a name. See the drug commercial at 2 a.m. That's when they can advertise a drug that messes for
absolutely
people's insomnia, right? Like,
Is
yeah.
this a drug that's still on the market and used nowadays, or is this like one of those?
Can we buy stock?
We all got to try some nitrazepam and see if we can get into Teleran Riyadh. Oh God.
That would be a bad trip. I mean,
I'm
basically-
Yeah, I feel
imagining.
like you'd end up, swearing to the Dark Lord and like turning into a horse or something. Like, it'd be bad.
I feel like a bunch of Wheel of Time fans read this and are like, I want to go get some of this and take it and see if I can get to the World of Dreams. Oh boy. Tom.
Okay. We're skipping the ones that I have, so I'm looking through. Or other people are tagging the ones that I have, so
Oh, sorry.
I'm going through to try and find something else. This is the second time you've caught me unprepared, Joe.
Let me see if I have any here. I thought there was one last one I wanted to talk about. I'm trying. I got a bunch here, but I'm trying to think of which one to do.
I have one while you're waiting. Here
Okay,
we
go
go.
ahead.
This was a surprise for me, I guess, kind of. Or I had misappropriated this in my brain. I thought I knew this reference and I didn't get it right. So the interest for Marion, right? One of Brigitte Silverbone's names in a previous incarnation. I'm not gonna read through the whole thing, but towards the end, it seems likely that Jordan was also nodding towards Francis Marion, an officer of the American Revolution, became known as the Swamp Fox due to skillful campaign of guerrilla warfare. And I know that's also kind of an influence, I think, for Matt in part two. And I always thought I was like, oh, this is like a Maid Marian Robin Hood
Yeah.
combo thing. She's the archer, but she's a girl and whatever. And I was like, that's what it is. And I'm like, oh no, it's not. So
Not even close.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like historical, like Revolutionary War, like we talked about Civil War, a lot of war, ancient war references in here. I guess, obviously Robert Jordan, having been in war and being fond of history, would put a lot of that in here. I think we talked about last week Thomas Mendenhall, right? Where they got a luger's name from, which was one of the cooler ones that we got to talk about and learn a little bit about some history. There's
I'm
one
loving
last.
that about this. It's
Yeah.
just giving me context for so many bits of history because it fits to Wheel of Time, so I can map it to the rest of my brain, and it's delightful. So many
Yeah.
wiki holes are going to get sparked from having this book.
Yes, right. You want to start going to look up some of these things and learn more about the historical significance of them for sure. I'll finish it up with one last one because when I first got the book and I opened it up, I went to the map and I was studying the map and I saw the Madlands and I was like, the Madlands, isn't it the land of the Mad? So apparently it wasn't, and this is an interesting story, right? So it's supposed to be the Madlands. Stereotypes of both Australia's original penal settlements and the post-apocalyptic landscapes of the Mad Max series of films, which is really cool. For reasons unknown, it was labeled the Land of the Madmen on the map of Roundland drawn up for the world of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. Jordan objected to this, writing several notes stating that this was a mistake. As one reads, Land of Madmen is wrong, should be the Madlands. Why his requested changes didn't make their way into the book is unknown. Even the finest Aes Sedai make mistakes. In any event, they are correctly established on the map of Randland included in this book. That's so bizarre. Like, they made a mistake, and then... How do you make a mistake like that? Harriet didn't edit the world of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, probably. That's probably why.
Is that
Yeah.
the big white book of
Yes.
battle?
Big
Yeah.
white book.
Yeah. There's a lot of mistakes in that book.
Yeah, but
There's
this
also-
is a big one.
Yeah.
This is a big mistake.
Yeah.
And me and every other geography nerd has been very happy with the updated map because it makes
Mhm.
so much more sense.
It's
It ties
cooler.
up so many loose ends. We have done like Ptolemaic levels of headcanoning to make this stupid Earth work. And now we just have a better map. And suddenly we get a Copernican model and everything's fine.
Yeah, that's so. I wonder how frustrated he must have been all those years that it was wrong. I'm surprised they didn't make him pull it off the shelf and correct it.
Knowing how frustrated we all were, I can imagine he went gray partially from that one mistake alone.
Yeah, and right, like,
And I've heard people really trash him over those, being like, "Oh, he doesn't know anything about geography." Like, people have really come down, especially Tolkien fans, have come pretty hard on him for his maps.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't draw the maps, so Tolkien did his own
No.
maps, right? Tolkien drew his own maps.
I suppose.
If you didn't do your own maps, is it even real nerding?
That's probably like
Jordan is a writer, okay? He's not a drawer. He's a writer.
if I would
He's not a
ever
linguist or a geneticist or anything.
a physicist that he
He
was.
was a
was-
physicist.
He was a
Yeah.
physicist. If I were to ever try to write a fantasy novel, the first thing I probably would do is draw the map, and then I wouldn't probably get much further past that. Um, but I think Seth, you mentioned there's a lot of things that are wrong in the Big White Book, and then there's also like a lot of things that were kind of right at the time, but then became wrong when the other books came out after it.
Right. Yeah, it was in the middle of the whole series. Yeah.
Oh, Zool's saying that RJ drew the first map in the first edition of Eye of the World.
No, I didn't know that.
Either.
Is it, Dana? Does it look very different than the one that we get
Well,
in
that's
the?
just.
It is pretty sparse.
It's just Randland, though. It's just
Yeah.
the western
Right.
That's true,
middle
yeah.
continent. It's not the whole planet. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Although people do give him shit for the dragon wall being vertical.
Oh,
He used magic to rearrange the surface of the earth. He can have a vertical mountain range. It's
I know.
fine.
I know.
is that?
I'll
wrong?
rag on
You
him for a
can't
bunch
have-
of stuff. But
You can't have a vertical mountain range.
I don't know. It just seems pretty artificial.
It's too straight. You mean?
Yeah.
yeah, well, because magic people made it happen. It's supposed to be artificial.
I mean, come on. This one guy made a mountain by himself just by getting really angry. So
Yeah.
you can have a straight mountain range. And I didn't realize too, reading this, I didn't realize that we don't even get a map like showing the land on the Mad Lands until the Big White Book. For some reason, I thought that we saw that earlier in the series, but we didn't.
No.
And that's probably the only place it ever shows up, right? It's not in any of the other books, right?
It's not mentioned. It's not relevant. It's just a random idea.
And it's weird
Typical for
because
Australia.
because in the Big White Book, not only is it on the map as the land of madmen, but there's an entry for the land of madmen. So it wasn't even like they just got it wrong on the map. They got it wrong entirely when they did the entry for it too. So I can't imagine.
Well, and I love the description of the map as sort of containing 4 big land masses, just like our world does, right? You got Australia, which is Land of the Madmen. You have North and South America, which is Shanshan, and then you have sort of Asia, which ends up being Shara, and then you have Europe and Africa. Well, Africa ends up also being part of Shara, I think. I'm forgetting the exact description, but the way they described, like, you essentially in our world have 4 big land masses, and so does Jordan's world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of the problem with the old map, was because South America was basically missing.
Mm-hmm.
There was that sense of like there's a whole continent missing. And when we got the updated Shanshan, it's like, South America, thank you.
Yeah, right. It's the Shanshan is much bigger in the new map than it
Hmm.
was in the old one.
Right.
And then I didn't know. I think we had this conversation a while ago that the continents are connected at the northern pole. Didn't know that prior to this map. I thought it was
No, I
separate.
don't think it was
thought they
confirmed. Yeah.
because they have a blight on both sides, and I didn't realize that they were connected.
It's the same blight, yeah.
Yeah, but
That
not
just
on
goes
the
up-
south.
Yeah.
So you got Antarctica.
There is an Antarctica, though.
Yeah,
If you look
there's
at the
an
bottom of the
Antarctica,
map,
yeah.
there is an
Mhm.
Antarctica.
Some things
Nobody-
never change.
Nobody
Nobody
ever
messed
talks
with
about
that.
that place. The sea folk have probably been there, I assume, right?
I mean, there's a
It's on
pretty
the map.
fearsome current running around it, but probably some
It's-
of them have seen it, maybe not returned to tell the tale.
Mm,
Maybe.
it's probably very cold down there too. So, this is probably a good place to go. Otherwise, we'll probably talk about every single entry in the
Yes.
in those pages. But I think
Can
we
do,
talked about
yeah.
the good
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
All right. Let's wrap it up here. Thank you, Seth and Aradia, so much for coming on. This has been really great, and glad to have you here.
you
For
for
our
having us.
listeners,
Thank you for having us.
where can they find WoT Spoilers podcast? Tell us all the things. What's going on. You have anything new coming out? Anything? What are you doing?
You can find us on all social media at WoT Spoilers. You can find us on all the podcast apps as WoT Spoilers. We're currently working our way through Winter's Heart. We're right around I think we're doing chapter 23 next.
Yep.
So we're right in the middle of Winter's Heart. We're starting to double chapters up because we're getting to that kind of sloggy space. We just finished releasing our deep dives from the TV show.
Oh, wow.
We recorded them as the show got released and then sat on them because we didn't know how to deal with the videos. I just kind of brute force made the audio a thing, and that's been coming out. So this week was the last episode because we had 2 episodes of ours, 3 hours each for half of the episode. So it was like 6 hours of content per TV show episode. It's ridiculous. So it's kind of weird to have those done coming out now. Otherwise, I don't think we've got a whole lot coming. I think we're going to probably talk about Origins a bit in the new year. Over on our podcast as a bit of bonus content, but
We'll probably talk about every entry in that situation.
yeah, it's gonna be a thing. That's a problem for 2023 us. For now, we're just working on Winter's Heart and getting through the heart of winter. It actually snowed here in the Pacific Northwest today.
Really?
Oh, wow.
It has not stuck, but it did snow.
Oh, I missed it. I was working.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's us. So again, thank you so much for having us. This has been really delightful. It's always fun to talk with fellow WoT nerds.
Yes.
Always.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I before I close it out, we got to wish Seth a happy birthday on the recording.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Appreciate that.
Seth's
Yeah.
Happy name day.
Birthday.
Yay.
At the time of this recording.
I'm still old.
10 more minutes for us.
Oh, for us, yeah.
You have a couple more hours left of your birthday.
Oh yeah, just a little. Yeah, no, it's the 3-hour difference,
Yeah.
especially while you're recording so late. This is for me and Aradia on the West Coast, it's
Oh wow!
it's fine.
I just realized like you could literally extend your birthday by just traveling west until you hit the international date line. But yeah, you can have a really long birthday celebration.
No, I mean if you go fast enough, the day just starts over again. It's fine.
Wow!
Yeah.
Like
The same
Superman
day.
when he goes around the globe.
That's why I'm still 29. I just keep going.
Jen, before we go, do we have any new patrons to thank?
We have 2 patrons that have now joined the Dreamwalkers. So we have Anas Ahmed and Arosa_MG. So
Well,
thank you
Anas
for
and
upgrading to the
Arosa.
Dreamwalkers, and to all of our patrons. We love you very much, and we appreciate your support.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I want to remind everyone to follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Join us over in Discord to continue the conversation there. Rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out our merchandise and Patreon pages. You can support us that way. Links to all the aforementioned information is included in the show notes to this episode. I will also include links to WoT Spoilers podcast, so you can go check them out. You can go follow them on social media. Thanks once again, Seth and Aradia. We really appreciate you guys coming on. Any last words, Tom and Jen?
No.
No.
I'm
We don't
good.
have anything coming up. We were guests on Feather and Mountain podcast, which dropped yesterday or today, I think.
Today.
So go check out I think we retweeted it out there. So if you want to see us or listen to us, I should say, on the Feather and Mountain podcast, we were talking about episode 4 of the show in their rewatch, and you get to hear me complain a lot about stuff and inaccuracies.
We can talk about What a Holiday. You'll have missed it by this point, but you can still watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, WoT Holidays is Saturday,
Yes.
but yeah, by the time this episode comes out, it will have been over, but you can go back and watch it. And also, we were on the Malkier Talks podcast,
Yes.
which I think comes out Saturday. So
Yeah.
by the time this episode drops, you will be able to check that out too, and we'll retweet that on social media as well. So, it's been a busy week for us for sure, and I'm looking to going back to like recording once a week and not having to
Yeah.
do like 3 other things. So it'll be nice. Not
Once
that
a
I
week
didn't
is a
enjoy all
better
of them.
schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, we were literally like we recorded on Sunday on Malkier Talks. We recorded on Feather Mountain Tuesday. We're doing this today, and then What a Holiday is on Sunday. So it was literally like 4 different Wheel of Time podcast /
Damn.
YouTube things in a week.
So
For the love.
maybe you could join us on Sunday. I was just thinking.
What the fuck are we doing on Sunday?
I don't know. Something to make them work.
Sunday 2023. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks
So we're at the
everyone.
show sometime.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening, and you'll hear us next time.